All right. Hello, people. This is Karthik Paniappan here from August Academy. We are an MBA admissions consulting firm based out of India, but we work with people from all over the globe. I'm very proud to say that we have students working with us who live in the eastern coast of Australia and the western coast of the United States. So that's pretty much the 360 degrees, right? In terms of results, our students study at the top 20 to 25 programs all across the world. For the most part, this would include the US. So we've had people getting into Harvard, we've had people getting into Chicago Booth, Kellogg, MIT, Columbia, Tuck, you name it, pretty much every top school out there. Within Europe, we've had students getting into London Business School, INSEAD, HEC, IE, IASA, SRD, and IMD as well. And in Asia, we've had our students getting into ISB, NUS, and HKUST and SEEBS. So that's pretty much every major school in every geography. We've been in business since 2013, and we've had the opportunity to work with hundreds of really, really talented students over the past 8 years, and we are looking at continuing that. In this particular session, I'm going to be sharing some viewpoints on how you can go about deciding your post-MBA career options. This is a presentation that's tailor-made for someone with a software engineering background. But of course, the general principle applies to someone who's not even from that background. So we'll probably go through the presentation for about 15 minutes or so. And after that, I'm going to be taking questions from the audience. And Abhijit from GMAT Club is going to be helping me with that. So, feel free to ask me whatever doubts you have, and I'll try to answer as best as I can, right? Great. So without much ado, here's my thoughts on the popular post-MBA career options. Let's just take a minute to think about what most top business schools look for in their students, right? I'm tailor-making this for an Indian origin audience. Again, the principles are applicable across the world. But let's see. We assume that top schools are looking for someone who's got a 760 on the GMAT, studied at one of the older IITs. If you're somewhere from the US or the UK, read this as someone who studied at an Ivy League university, or maybe an Oxbridge, or maybe a National University of Singapore, right? The best in class university from whatever region you belong to, a Melbourne, something along those lines, works at one of those primary feeder companies like a McKinsey or a Goldman or a Blackstone Equity, advises the leader of the country on matters of national importance, runs a startup on the side, supports an NGO in East Africa, and has some very, very cool extracurricular activities and hobbies, right? In short, the appearance that most top business schools give us is that they are looking for a person who looks like Superman or a Wonder Woman, right? But that's not what most applicants look like. Most applicants are just struggling to keep themselves afloat. And if they try to fly, they find that they need some support to do that. And we are here to support you during your most difficult times. So please reach out to us as and when you feel you want some help. But yeah, most applicants feel like they're just getting by, and they definitely don't have that superhero or superheroine material, right? And this is why we've called our poster boy applicant, Bharat Swaminathan. This is our take on Bart Simpson from The Simpsons show, for people who were watching these cartoons back in the early 2000s. Pretty funny guy, not of Indian origin at all, but we've sort of Indianized him. Right? So what most Indian applicants look like, they have between a 700 and 720 on the GMAT, typically from an engineering background, typically male. But we are seeing increased representation from women applicants as well, and that's something that's very, very encouraging. And regardless of what your background is, little to no extracurriculars. That is our typical Indian applicant. So what do? There's a whole lot of things you can do, but the single most important thing that you can do to enhance the strength of your application is to connect your background very, very clearly with your post-MBA career goals. That's what the topic of this session is all about. It's about what are the most popular post-MBA career goals and how you can find something that relates to your background, right? Just a little bit about me. My name is Karthik Paraniyappan. I am the founder and the chief coach at August Academy. I'm an alumnus of IIT Madras and Stanford University. I worked abroad for a while, and then I wanted to be in India. I wanted to work in India, so I came back here. I wanted to work for myself, and then I wanted to work with students. So a whole combination of events eventually led me to starting August Academy. I left my corporate career in 2013, and August Academy has been in business since then. And we've helped hundreds of students find their home in global top-ranked MBA programs, right? So that's me at Rotman. I had a great visit there in the year 2018, I believe. I'm also a member of AGAC, so that's the Association of International Graduate Admissions Consultants. I'm someone who organizes the conference every year, and as part of the annual conference, we have interactions with admissions directors from most top business schools. So that's where I'm getting most of my insights from. So how do you connect your background to your future post-MBA career goals? Let's do a small case study. This is Vignesh, all right? Vignesh is a very typical IT engineer, works for a major IT services firm in the quality assurance function, also known as the testing function. When Vignesh reached out, his original goal was to work with a retailer, helping them with their food supply chain. So, making the transition from IT services to working with a retailer in their food supply chain, somehow it doesn't compute, right? It seems like he's been doing something, but he wants to do something completely different. And in case you're wondering what the food supply chain is, this is that graphic that I have on the right. So that's what the food supply chain is all about. So what does an IT engineer have to do with the food supply chain? Nobody knows. And that was the problem, right? No connection between his background and his future. So we had a few sessions with Vignesh to understand where he was coming from, to see if it even made sense. On exploring his background, we found out that Vignesh came from a family of farmers, all right? And this is a huge problem, primarily in India, but also in several other countries. There's a lot of wastage in the food supply chain. So assuming 100 units of food are produced at the farm, you may receive anywhere from 20 to 40 units at the store, all right? So that means a good 60 to 80 units are getting destroyed on the way, right? That's a huge loss of productivity. If you can do something about it, then you can make the entire industry much more profitable, right? And in the case of a country like India, where most farmers are small farmers, that means more money in the hands of these farmers. And that means the entire country becomes a lot more prosperous, right? So now we find out that Vignesh has a very personal motivation for why he wants to get into this. Okay, personal motivation is fine, but is that still enough? On digging deeper, we found out that one of his many IT projects involved working with an Australian retailer to optimize their IT backend to manage the supply chain, right? So now Vignesh actually has demonstrated professional experience in the food supply chain. This is something that we had to work hard to find out. So now we have a very strong personal motivation. We have a very strong professional exposure to this field. Now, the only thing that remains to be seen is Vignesh does not want to work on the technical side of the food supply chain problem, but he wants to work on the managerial and the design side of the food supply chain. And this is a very, very legitimate post-MBA career. So that's the entire sequence of events. So we had to help Vignesh find a very strong personal motivation. We had to help him find relevant professional experience. And finally, we had to help him connect it to a career goal, which is a legitimate post-MBA career goal. So that's all it takes, folks. If you can connect your background to a legitimate post-MBA career goal, then you're clearly in business. So just restating that here. How do you do this, right? So take some time to introspect, think about your work, think about your life achievements, think about your personal motivations, think about what your professional strengths and weaknesses are. Reach out to students and alums who've had similar backgrounds as you. So if you're in the IT services sector, reach out to an IT engineer. If you're in the finance sector, reach out to someone in the finance world. If you're a consultant, reach out to another consultant, right? So reach out to students and alums who are MBA graduates who've had pre-MBA industries, which are very relatable to you. Find out what they've done, find out what kind of jobs they've taken up. In fact, in order for you to find out what kind of jobs they've taken up, it's not even necessary for you to talk to them. You just have to look at their LinkedIn page and you can see, okay, what did they do before MBA? They were working for TCS. What did they do after MBA? They're working for Google as product manager. Okay, so maybe that's something that I can do too, assuming you're working for one of the behemoths like TCS or Wipro or Infosys or HCL, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is definitely be informed about what it takes to work in a certain career goal, right? So in fact, this was a conversation I had with somebody maybe yesterday or the day before. They had no idea what they wanted to do, but they were very clear that they wanted to transition from a career in the oil and gas industry to doing a PhD in business where they would become a lecturer at a business school abroad. So that's a big leap, all right? And to a large extent, this person was making this decision based on a certain idea that they had generated for themselves about what certain careers would look like. They did not know what it meant to be working in strategy, for example. They did not know what strategy was. They did not know who the major strategy professors are. So what I would recommend is, first of all, start reading about your post-MBA career goals. If you're interested in consulting, there's a book called The McKinsey Way. If you're interested in finance, there's any number of finance books, right? If you're interested in operations, there's a book called The Goal. So read about it. Use it to get a first level idea about what that career path looks like, all right? Once you're done, the next step is to actually go and explore certain textbooks or courses on Coursera or edX or Udemy, right? So it's one thing to say you want to work in finance, you want to work in corporate finance, but then again, you should really sign up for a course on how you can read a balance sheet. Now, once you start doing the homework there, you can actually see if that is of interest to you or, because that's the work you're going to be doing day in and day out. If you're not interested in reading a balance sheet, then you shouldn't be working in finance, right? So remove the glamour from the equation. Think about what the actual mechanics are that are involved here, and then see if that is of interest to you, because that's what you're going to be doing on a daily basis, okay? The shortlisting suitable schools and the resume LORs essays, these are areas where we help you with. So if that's an area where you need help, please definitely reach out and we're happy to help as well. Yeah, these are all the things that you need to know about yourself. What is your personality type? Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Are you suitable for a business development role? You need to be someone who's comfortable talking to people if you want to be in a business development role. On the other hand, if you're someone who wants to be in consulting, then you need to have a strong research focus, all right? If you're someone who wants to be in product management in the technology industry, you need to have a very good idea of the underlying technology, but you also need to be of the kind of personality type where you can talk to a variety of stakeholders and get things moving, right? So your primary thing, your primary strength has to be that you can get people to do things. So what is your primary job description? What kind of leadership experiences have you had? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What kind of major achievements do you have? What kind of extracurriculars do you have? And finally, what kind of international experience do you have? So these are things you need to assess about yourself, right? Again, just summarizing, a student study everywhere in the global top 20, including schools like Harvard, London Business School, INSEAD, ISB, NUS, UST. We've had over $6 million US in scholarships and counting. We've still not added the current year's results to the play, and we hope we can do better. And that's pretty much the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take questions right now. Abhijit. Okay. Thank you for the questions. Ishan Patak has a question which says, what are the things that a strategy consultant undertakes? So let me give you a very simple example, right? Let's assume that a major international technology company wants to open an India office, all right? I know almost every major technology company has an office in India, but let's assume Dropbox wants to open an India office, right? So, the consulting firm is going to help them understand what kind of talent is available, what would be the best place for them to locate their office, what kind of strategy can they put in place for the India team. So this would be one example of a situation where consulting firm can help. Okay. Let's think about another example of how a consulting firm can help. Consulting firms also work with governments, all right? So, we are in the midst of something unprecedented, right, with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. So let's assume that a certain government wants to implement a vaccination regime in a small part of its geography, all right? So they may want to reach out to a consulting firm to figure out what is the best strategy, who gets vaccinated first, who gets vaccinated second. Is it better to have everybody vaccinated on day one, or is it better to phase it as 10% per day over 10 days? So how do you do it, right? So the government may consult the firm on what would be the best strategy involved for that. What would be the best strategy for redrawing the coal policy or the steel policy of a particular country, right? So with regards to major corporations, I gave you the example of a technology firm opening up a new office. This is from an operational point of view. But what if a major conglomerate like Reliance wants to examine if they should be getting into a new industry like telecom? This is something that happened about 5-6 years ago, right? With their foray into Geo. Fairly certain that Reliance would have consulted with a McKinsey or a Boston or a Bain to understand if they should be switching gradually from mining for oil to, giving people telephone connections and broadband and everything that goes along with it, right? So all of these are legitimate problems that are considered and consulted upon by all the major consulting firms. Okay. Moving on, how to prepare for a management consulting career pre-MBA. So, first of all, finish up the reading that I just asked you to. And if it is possible to get a pre-MBA internship, I would strongly recommend that you take up a pre-MBA internship. If it is possible to get into a strategy-related role within your own firm, try to get into a strategy-related role within your own firm. These are some of the possibilities. Okay. Is full stream going to be available on the channel later? That's a question for Abhijit to answer. Do MBBs prefer only young consultants? What are the chances of an individual to get into MBB, and which B schools need to be selected for the same? Typically, MBBs prefer people who are, somewhere in the 28 to 32 age group. And that's because typically MBBs hire people at the associate level post-MBA. But once in a while, they do hire a senior candidate as well, and especially if you bring strong subject matter expertise, right? Okay, the same question's been asked by someone else. Tisha has a question. What are some of the career paths for business analysts? Consulting is definitely a viable career path. If you are a business analyst in the technology sector, then you may want to get into a marketing or sales function in the technology sector itself. If you have strong technical exposure, then product management is a viable career as well. Roshan has a question. If I'm in retail banking in India with a 760 GMAT score, will operations be suitable for me? That is not a question I am able to answer without looking into your resume in greater depth. If you are in banking operations and you are wanting to get into banking operations, sure, I think that makes sense. But if you are, let's say, a bank manager or a loan officer wanting to get into operations at Amazon, then we will really have to examine if you have the right set of transferable skills. If you have the right set of transferable skills, definitely yes, I think that may work. If you don't, then find another post MBA career goal, write about it, and then try to follow that career path. Sometimes people undergo a salary drop after MBA. How to justify the costs? How to evaluate future gains? You probably are completely aware of um the the math behind this, right? There's your pre-MBA salary, there's your post-MBA salary, there's the debt that you incur when you get into business school. And, you need to figure out if you can repay the debt in a timely manner. And then after you've repaid the debt in a timely manner, are you ahead or behind, right? So that's the math. But it's not just the math, right? Uh, think about whether you are doing an MBA simply because you want a higher paying job or if you want to change your career path, right? I know that a lot of people are in a technical career path. And when I say technical, it doesn't have to mean engineering necessarily. Medical professionals working as full-fledged doctors or nurses, that is a technical career path for them. They may want to be in hospital administration. The same thing goes for legal professionals who are defending cases in court. What they're doing at this point is technical. If they're drafting contracts, what they're doing is technical. But at the same time, maybe what they want to be doing is they want to be designing corporate structures, right? I'm talking about these legal professionals here. So that's at the intersection of law and business. So if you want to transition from a purely technical career path to a career path that includes a large amount of business exposure, then you need an MBA, right? And if that's something that's going to make you happy, then it's very difficult to put a financial number to that happiness, right? So think about it. Rishabh, I have no extra curriculars, I'm assuming, but want to apply in the top 15 US MBA colleges in September 21 round one. Is it even worth applying? Um, I'm not someone who discourages anyone from pursuing their dreams, right? So if you want to, all it takes is, I don't know, $200, $250 per college. And there are a good number of colleges that may offer you fee waivers as well. So by all means, if you want to apply, please go ahead for it. If you're looking at a top 15 US MBA college, and if you are of an Indian origin background, it may help you to have a 750 or higher, okay, on the GMAT. Equivalently, on the GRE, it may help you to have a 332 or higher, right? So that's where it starts. And if you don't have a lot of extracurriculars, then think about why that is the case. Are you in a very busy job? Maybe you're in finance, or maybe you're in a job that requires you to be at the office 18 hours a day. Then it may be acceptable for you not to have strong extracurriculars. But if you have a typical 8-hour workday and if you don't have extracurriculars, then think about why that may be the case. Do you have any hobbies that are of interest to you that you are actually very good at? Maybe you're an expert guitar player. Maybe you play in bands. So that is not the same thing as working for an NGO, but still that is a way in which you would have distinguished yourself in some manner, right? So think about whether any of these are applicable to you. If that is the case, then you may project that. If you are working in a job that requires you to have spend a lot of time at work, then that's okay. But regardless, 750 for a top 15, right? So that's important. What would be an easier post-MBA goal for someone from a background in IT? Typically, people talk about product management, right? Or as a banker, what specialization should I choose? I'm assuming you would be most interested in financial services. But then there are people who move away from financial services as well, right? Is Masters in Management a good for a career transition for a 24-year-old engineering grad? At 24, assuming you're about 3 years away from college, you're probably a little too late applying for Masters in Management program. These are typically geared at people with 0 to 2 years of experience. I would recommend that you wait for another 2 years and just apply for an MBA, right? I'm currently working as a cybersecurity business development manager. Wow, that seemed very fancy. But I'm not quite sure what's the role I want after MBA. So how to figure out a legit reason for doing an MBA. yeah, I mean, I hope you were there for the beginning part of my presentation. Think about your background. Think about what there's only 4 or 5 different post MBA career options, right? There's consulting, there's financial services, there's a variety of jobs in the technology sector. There's a variety of jobs in the operations function, and then there's a few jobs in a marketing function. Right now, typically, as a foreign applicant, the jobs in the marketing function may be very difficult for you to crack. Right, so let's leave that outside. So consulting is something that's open to most people, provided they have high GMATs and a strong academic pedigree, right? And excellence at work as well, preferably a contribution in the strategic function at work. Okay. Technology is something that's open to most technology professionals. Financial services, that's open to someone with a financial background, right? And operations is open to most people from a manufacturing, oil and gas, sometimes even armed forces kind of background, right? So as a cybersecurity professional, I expect you to have strong technology background. As a business development manager, I expect you to have knowledge of how to grow business, right? Sales, talking to people, sort of in a consultative manner. So these are probably some transferable skills you have. Think about what are the other transferable skills and then use that to map. How easy is it to change from a developer role in IT to product management role in IT with a part-time MBA? It shouldn't be too difficult, but of course, I'm assuming you are located in the US and you want to be working in the US. But yeah, I mean, even if you're working in India and let's say you're in Bangalore, you're looking at a part-time MBA at IIM Bangalore, and then you want to take up a job with an IT firm post that, I think that should be possible. Yeah. Hitesh Jonalagada. I'm a software engineer, and any books, courses do you recommend to get an idea about product management? Uh, there is one. Ben Horowitz, that's the name. Okay. Just Google up his blog. He's written a blog article on product management, which you should be able to read in about 15 minutes. That's all you need to know about product management. And then, pick up on some of the things that he's talked about in his blog articles and read further. But that's really the place where you should be starting. Ben Horowitz. Okay. If you want to read his book entirely, it's a very inspiring book. It's called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Okay. Considering Canada in pursuit of a Western citizenship, but their MBAs are not that high ranked, does it make sense to do an MSc there first and consider a higher ranked US MBA post citizenship later? I'm not the expert on citizenship or immigration matters, but what I can tell you is, don't pursue multiple degrees if that's not in your career plan, right? It really doesn't make sense. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. So think about what you want to do with life, professionally speaking. Think about what the best degree is that will help you get there, and then just go do it. All right. If issues like citizenship come in the middle, then you may have to make a compromise there, either in terms of getting into a program that you consider not very highly ranked. I do disagree on that. Rotman is as good as any top 15 US school, I think. You saw the picture of me wearing the Rotman shirt, right? So I've been there and I have a soft spot for them. Great school. So Rotman's a great school. But yeah, I mean, don't do yourself a favor. Don't study more than you really have to. Okay. Tisha says, I'm a business analyst in a credit risk department. Is investment banking a feasible career path? We'll have to examine this in a little bit more depth, Tisha. Feel free to sign up for a profile eval. I'll give you the caveat though, because we are receiving a lot of inquiries for profile evaluations. We are prioritizing people who've already taken the GMATs and who have about 3 years of experience at least. So, hopefully you fall in that bucket. Even otherwise, it's okay to get on our mailing list, and please, whenever you're done with the GMAT, you can reach out. This is something that we'll need to examine on a one-on-one basis. I need to understand what you've done in the credit risk department. My question is related to MBA applications. How important is career switching after 8 to 9 years of work experience in manufacturing? Master's degree in engineering, GMAT of 760. Want to switch from project management to consulting? I think that's feasible. Please reach out to us, and then we'll see how we can help out. Is it possible to get a position as manager in consulting in a firm you have expertise in finance advisory and Big Four as manager? I think what you are asking me is, assuming you have already spent some time working with the Big Four, can you get into the management cadre? That's definitely possible, provided you're within the same firm, right? Or an equivalent firm. Yeah. Switching from finance advisory to consulting may require you to start from the beginning. Okay. Post-MBA career options for a healthcare professional. Well, I mean, definitely you know better, but I can think of hospital administration, insurance, pharma, medical devices. So these are some areas where you may be suitably employed. That's my feeling here. Any prerequisites if you want to get into a PE and VC-based career? Definitely have strong financial experience before that. And if you don't have strong financial experience, then at least you must be a startup entrepreneur, right? So if that applies to you, then I think it makes sense for you to target PE and VC-based careers. If that doesn't apply, then it's going to be very, very difficult for you to break in. Consider it to be something for the long haul, not for an immediate post-MBA career goal. What would be a good career path for someone who works at a tech product company in their consulting arm? Consulting is fine, product management is fine. I've worked with people who've had similar backgrounds. So, of course, I'll have to reread their essays to figure out what we came up with at that point. But yeah, in general, consulting is fine, and technology consulting is fine, product management is fine. Abhay has a question. I have a score of 600 in the GMAT, eyeing for MIM in Ops and SEM, but a bit skeptical regarding job prospects. No, I mean, I don't think you need to be skeptical at all. If you can get into a good college, operations and SEM, I think that's the backbone of business and any economic activity. So that's, I mean, in order for you to be selling something, you have to be making something and you have to be transporting something, right? So those things come first. So operations and SEM are always going to be there. So you're always going to have jobs in operations and SEM. So it's not very glamorous, but it's something that's always going to be there. If you can improve your GMAT score, then definitely you can target a higher ranked college. So that part is there. Vishal Saini has a question. I'm a CMA at ONGC acting as a finance manager. Do I need work experience for PhD in US top universities? I'm not sure how many years of work experience you have at this point, but if you are looking at a PhD, then it would be very helpful for you to figure out why you want to do a PhD instead of an MBA. It would be very helpful for you to have relevant academic and research experience in your area of specialization as you apply. In case you don't have a lot of research experience, I would recommend that you figure out a suitable master's program, apply to the master's program first, and then extend that to a PhD at a later point in time. Siddharth has a question. What are the realistic, viable post-international MBA career options for a candidate with a mix of corporate strategy, family business, not returning to the business immediately? If you have a good GMAT score, consulting would be great. If you don't have a good GMAT score, then we'll have to examine what industry you work in and figure out something suitable. Yeah. Is a 750 plus GMAT score required if a candidate has strong extracurriculars? Is 730 plus really a handicap for a person of Indian origin? There's no universal answer for this, all right? But about 95% of the time, if you want a top 15 school, you need a 750 plus, okay? About 5% of the time, that's not necessary. In fact, we had somebody with a 730 getting into Tuck just this year, and that's really really amazing. Okay, uh, I'll tell you how amazing it is. Georgetown is ranked just about in the top 20, I think, and I heard that they had about 800 people on the waiting list. Okay, every school in the top 20 has multiple hundred people on the waiting list at this point in this particular year. And in this very year, we had somebody get into Tuck with a 730. We had somebody who got waitlisted at Duke with a 680. We had somebody else, the same 680 person, get into Georgetown when 800 people are on the wait list, right? So, yeah, I mean, I can definitely give you stories of people whom we worked with who've actually managed to crack top 15, top 20 schools with a 730 or even like a sub 700 score. But having said that, that's not the most common advice I would give someone who's just about starting the journey. Okay. So if there's no choice, then we'll go ahead with your 730 and then we'll see what's the best we can do. But in order for you to make your chances as high as possible, I think the 750 plus will be very, very helpful. Okay. If you have strong extracurriculars, definitely more power to you. That's going to be helpful. Shubham has a question. I'm an Indian working in the UAE in SEM. Will doing an MS in industrial engineering in 2 years, post 3 years of experience after graduation with MS degree from US, will I be at an advantage to get into a top 10 MBA school? Again, if you plan to be doing an MS in 2 years and then you want to do an MBA later, my advice to you is the same as what I advised the other person about 5-10 minutes ago. Don't do multiple degrees. That's a waste of your time and money. But if you already have your master's in industrial engineering and if whatever job you're working in is post-master's, then yes, sure. I mean, that means you're well on your way. And now for some reason you've decided that you don't want to pursue a technical career path, but you want to get into the management side of things. I wouldn't be able to say that you have an advantage because you have an advanced degree. But what I may be able to say is if your master's is from a reputed university, then definitely that branding will add value. If your master's GPA is very high, that will add value. And sometimes what happens is because you get a master's from a top ranked university, you're also able to work in a company that is more reputed than the kind of company you would get into before the master's. So that also will add value. So these are the other areas in which your master's would have added value. All right. Again, my advice is valid if your master's is already done and dusted with. All right. If you're thinking about doing a master's in future, think about why you want to do it. Think about whether you want a master's or an MBA. There is actually very little reason for you to do both. Okay, don't waste your time. It's very precious. How MBA schools see IT engineers from India with less than 3 years of experience? Very competitive, man. If you just do a poll on this particular forum where we are right now, right? I don't know. I'm Abhijit, I'm assuming we have about 100 people. You would be better placed to tell me this. But from that quorum of 100 people, I'm sure at least 30 people belong to your category. All right. We may have like 3 doctors and 3 lawyers at most. Okay. So compare 3 doctors and 3 lawyers with 30 IT engineers with less than 3 years of experience. That's way overcrowded. Okay. So your GMAT becomes a very important data point. And typically what happens is you may have to sacrifice on the ranking front in order for you to get into a good business school. All right. So that's something that you'll have to accept. I'm an IT business analyst with 10.5 years of experience, 760 on the GMAT and average GPA with specialization suits me most as per your product management. Seems reasonable. Reach out, let's have a chat, and let's try to see if we can work together. Okay, I think I lost the thread here. I'm an IP consultant and involved in IP management. I also have a course on project management. How will these help me land a management consulting role post MBA? Okay. This is something that we will need to examine, Abhilash. At the outset, I don't know much about what you do on a daily basis, uh, and we'll need to examine what kind of transferable skills and what kind of knowledge you can take in with you post MBA. And if those skills are a match for a consulting role, then that may be a suitable post MBA career goal for you. If those skills are not a match, then you may have to reconsider writing about consulting. Yeah. Uh, I'm an engineering lead working in the US with 9 years of experience, age 33, trying to decide if a part-time MBA is a good option or should I still try to do full-time. I'm looking to move into management consulting. If you're looking to change career paths, then a full-time MBA is the best option. Then again, I am a little sensitive advising you because you are at a reasonably mature level of your career. You're probably doing very well, and you're probably in line for good promotions at work as well. And I mean, for someone who's well settled in their careers and who's probably not wanting to leave their careers full time, a part-time MBA is a good option. If you're on the management track at your company, then maybe if you wait another 3-4 years, an executive MBA may be a good option as well, and more bonus points for you if you can get your company to sponsor. If these are not viable and if you really, really want to switch careers, then a full time is the best option. But if it is very difficult for you to leave your job, then do a part time MBA. That should still be okay. A part-time MBA does make it difficult to do a career switch, but it's not impossible. One of my cousins did exactly that. He was working in an IT services firm, pre-MBA. He got a part-time MBA from Chicago Booth and then moved into a consulting firm afterwards. And he heads Amazon Prime in India at this point. So that's one data point I can give you. Don't extend from one data point and say, hey, you know what, a lot of people may be able to repeat this. But there's definitely someone who's done that. So that should give you some hope. How competitive is tech in EU given most tech giants are headquartered in the US? And what roles in tech are usually offered post-MBA in EU? I don't think it's any different in EU versus the US. So you have the same set of firms, you have your Googles and you have your Facebooks and you have your Amazons. So the point is, can they find you a job in the EU versus can they find you a job in the US? That's about it. But I don't think that's something you need to worry about a lot. What do you think are post-MBA prospects for a military background individual? Which sector? Consulting, general management, project management, or operations manager? I worked with a military candidate very recently. This was a gentleman who had a lot of heavy-duty operations kind of work in the Indian Army, all right, Indian Navy, actually. So for this particular gentleman, we decided to take the operations management route. But then again, I mean, that's not the same thing that applies across the board. If your primary strength is leadership, then general management may work just as well. Sales and operations may work as well. If you have a very strong GMAT score and if you've done some strategic work, which you may not be able to talk about, then, just talking about that strategic work is important to get into consulting, but, we'll figure out a loophole around that, right? But yeah, thank you for everything that you've done for the country and for making the world a safer place. Abhishek has a question. I have 2 years of work experience in software research and development at a reputed tech firm. Post that, I left my job to pursue social development in India and coordinated for NGO work for 3 years. All right. Not sure what your question is, Abhishek, but again, excellent work. Feel free to reach out to us and we'll see if we can help you in any manner, right? Ankit Goyal has a question. Okay, I lost the question. Okay, yeah, I have it here. I'm a chartered accountant and I have a chance to join Amazon as a finance analyst. What are the chances of getting into Ivy College after 3 to 4 years of work experience? I think you've definitely made the right start. Congratulations on your new job. Do well and try to get exposure into the multiple areas of business that Amazon works in, provided your company is giving you that exposure. I think that should be a great starting point for you. Definitely have the basics covered, get a very good GMAT score, and also partake of some good extracurricular activities. I think that will position you as a good candidate. Congratulations. What's a good GRE score to get into top 15 MBA colleges, Divya? 332 or so should be fine. Yeah. What roles are usually offered in general management route with no specific specialization? Um, it's a little hard to say, Sayan. The most popular general management career path is what's called the leadership rotation program. All right. So where a company like a large conglomerate like General Motors or General Electric hires you, and then they rotate you through about 3 or 4 departments and 3 or 4 geographies for periods of 6 months each. And then, they actually figure out what you are best at, and you also get to figure out what you like the most. And based on the match that is made, you will be offered a job after that period of 2 years. Okay. Amit has a question. Hi, I'm planning to do a second MBA after 11 years of experience. Keen on a 1-year MBA. Which other institutes can I target in the US? In the US, as far as I know, Kellogg has a one-year MBA program. Columbia has like a 15-16 month program, I think. There are a few tech MBAs which may be 1 year. It depends on whether your previous MBA is in tech or not. Cornell has the 1-year program for people with advanced degrees, and Marshall has the 1-year IBER program. So these are actually the only programs available to you. All right. Besides Stanford and MIT for the executive MBA programs, right? So it's not even about what you can apply to. It's not about what you are eligible to apply to. These are the only programs available for you in the US. Most 1-year programs are in Europe, actually. Ritika, 7 years of work experience, 730 on the GMAT, marketing experience. Which schools can I reach? Very broad question. If you're looking at US schools, maybe a top 20, I would say should be okay. Yeah, but we'll have to work on your career goals as well. I'm a mechanical engineer working as a product engineer in the automotive sector. I have 3 years of work experience of switching to operations as CM. Worth it? Is MBA, MS good for my profile to pursue a career in ops? Shravani, I don't know what you mean when you say is switching worth it. If that's something that you are passionate about, then it is worth it. If you're not necessarily passionate about it, then you need to think about why you want to switch to operations in SCM, right? And if you figure out that you have other good reasons for why you want to take up operations in SCM, then you may do an MBA or an MS. Either way is fine. Yeah, it should be okay. Hi, I'm a core civil engineer with about 4 years of experience. As part of job, I do have some project and resource management experience. Can I switch to consulting, general management, marketing roles? Not marketing, definitely not if you are looking at a foreign college, all right? With regards to consulting and general management, it may or may not be possible. We'll have to examine your background in a little bit more depth, okay? But definitely, I think a good GMAT is important. So here's the other thing, right? Most consulting firms, especially the MBB category of firms, do look at your GMAT scores, okay? And they think it is important that you have a GMAT of 740 plus. So just keep that in mind. As long as that applies to you, I think you should be fine, okay? Pragati has a question. I have 2.7 years of work experience in institutional sales. I want to go for MBA, but I'm confused between marketing and business analyst. Can you help me on this? So marketing, typically, I wouldn't recommend anyone with a foreign background to get in. So let's leave that out. Business analyst may be a better role. There may be other better options as well. I think we'll need to talk and figure out what your transferable skills are in a little bit more depth. Shubham has a question. What do you think is better, a 1-year MBA from HEC Paris, INSEAD, IMD, IAC, or the top 15 2-year MBA from the US? I think all of these are great programs. Think about whether you want to study in the US or think about whether you want to study in Europe. and really use that to figure out which is better for you. So that's the question, right? Which is better for you, not which is better absolutely. Akshay has a question, 31 years old, having 10 years of experience in IT infrastructure, administration, managing private cloud, does a 1-year MBA, will it be helpful? Yeah, should be okay, Akshay. I think you may be able to do a 1-year or a 2-year program, depending on what you prefer more. So just think about it and then, yeah, use that. KK, I'm on CA final year, currently working in a Big Four. I'm assuming you're an article, KK. So, first of all, finish up your CA, do well on it. And I'm going to preempt your question here because you don't have a question here. Just think about the other person who just got into Amazon in the financial sector, right? So find a nice job along the lines of what the other person was able to find. If you want to continue working in the Big Four, that's fine as well. Do that for about 3-4 years, get good extracurriculars, get a good GMAT, and then reach out back to us and we'll be happy to help you with your MBA applications at that point. And if you crack the 750, then I'm sure we can get you into a top 15 as well. Amit has a question, any specific B school in the US which are the hiring grounds for media and entertainment companies? UCLA is well known for media and entertainment, but having said that, I think media and entertainment are two industries that are also going to be out of bounds for foreign nationals. Okay. Could you elaborate on your earlier thoughts on Rotman and how it compares to the top 15 US MBAs, especially concerning international recognition? In what manner do you want me to elaborate? I mean, all I can say is they have great faculty, they have great job outcomes. The immigration regime is very favorable. They have a nice startup center, right? So all in all, the environment is very conducive to learning, right? And they have good companies hiring from them as well. So they're going to serve your purpose. And with regards to international recognition, definitely Rotman does not have the same recognition that, let's say, a Harvard or a Stanford does. But, once you're in the top 15 to 20 range, Rotman should be roughly about as equally recognized. What is my advice on applying to business school without GMAT? We did that for somebody this year. This was to Darden. This person was waitlisted. This was actually as early as round 1. So he got the waiver and he was waitlisted. And as far as I know, he's still on the waitlist. They like his profile, but they've given him a lot of time. I look at it as the school gently nudging him, saying, hey, take the GMAT. We've given you 6 months. That should be more than enough time, right? So what I find is a lot of Indian applicants have very, very similar profiles. Okay. We have, like I said, if we have 100 people on the chat room today, about 30 of them are very likely to be IT engineers, male, less than 2 to 3 years of experience, right? You will be unable to tell the difference between one person and another just looking at the resume. The names may be different, some names like Karthik, my name, are very, very common, right? Akshay, very common. I'm just saying, names are, so sometimes you may even have 2 people with very similar sounding names, and it's very easy to confuse people. The companies, one person may be working for TCS, one person may be working for Infosys, one person may be working for Wipro, but they'll all be doing the same thing, right? They'll be all working for similar sorts of clients. So, and, to top it all, very few people have extracurriculars, okay? So for most Indian applicants, there is actually very little to differentiate them from the other similarly placed applicants. And the GMAT becomes pretty much the sole point of differentiation, or at least the most important point of differentiation. Because of this, I think it's very important that you apply with the GMAT. If you have something that is truly off the charts, some work experience that's truly, truly unique, then it may be okay for you to apply without the GMAT, okay? But it's very rare to find someone who's truly unique. I'll be very hard pressed to give you case studies or examples of someone who's done something which very, very few people have done, okay? Under those circumstances, I think applying with the GMAT would be the best. Nitin has a question. I have 14 years work experience, GMAT of 720, MS from from USC, and worked as a software engineer in US for 6 years, and post that as an entrepreneur in India for 8 years. Targeting US and UK, please suggest. If you are interested in executive MBA programs, I would strongly recommend an executive MBA, Nitin. I've worked with somebody in your age group before, and yeah, I mean, we eventually had him get into MIT's STM program, I think, and he has a very good job at Cisco right now. So I can see similar career paths for you as well. There's 3 Sloan programs, one at Stanford, one at MIT, and one at London Business School. Those would be the most favorable programs for you. Follow that with some of these programs like STM and all that. Those could be useful as well. Okay, Pratik has a question. I have 9 years of experience working as a data strategy consultant. Can I choose any normal university outside India without GMAT, GRE? Will I be able to continue my career as a consultant? Or should I opt for GMAT first and then only go for regular MBA? If you're looking to get into a top ranked university, I would strongly recommend taking the GMAT and then applying, right? That would be my advice. But then again, this is not universal. If you're working as a consultant and you want to continue working as a consultant and you just want to brush up your leadership experience, and you're okay working in India post your MBA, then you may just get a part-time degree at IIM Bangalore or IIM Ahmedabad, or you may get one of those online degrees as well. So those are other options. Do you suggest any course on certification, leadership, or strategy, maybe prior to applying for MBA for a military personnel? I think those are made available for you, right? As part of your transition to civilian services initiative by the Indian Army. If that is the case, then make full use of whatever the Army is offering you. That will definitely help you transition to civil life. But apart from that, will it have a major impact on your MBA application? Maybe not. It will have an impact if you take up the certification, then you spend about a year after that working in a leadership role. Then that leadership role also becomes part of your application package. Then the certification course would have helped you. But if you're applying immediately after the certification or concurrently with your certification, then that may not add that much value. But having said that, it is being offered to you. Please take it up. 1-year programs in UK, such as Cambridge, Judge, and Oxford side, good. Of course, they're very good. So if you can get in, I would strongly recommend it. So no questions asked. Do you consider international candidates from countries other than India? I'm 33, IT project manager from Armenia, which is a very underrepresented country. I mean, there is nothing that says we would work only with Indian applicants. I mean, we are a business, right? I mean, so business and nationality, they don't necessarily have to work hand in hand together, right? I am happy to work with people from all parts of the globe. I've had people from Pakistan consult me. So, right, I mean, so, I mean, not that we work with anybody outside of India much, but we are happy to do that, right? For a part-time MBA, are any scholarships offered? I wouldn't be very optimistic about scholarships for a part-time MBA. Definitely don't have statistics on it. GMAT versus exec assessment, anyone is preferred? Not necessarily. Do whatever is easier for you. But of course, the EA is something that colleges are slowly accepting one after another, right? So it may not be as widely accepted as the GMAT. So from that point of view, the GMAT may be more convenient. Abhay has a question. I'm a mechanical engineering fresher. Don't want to get completely aloof with my previous academics. Can you tell me MIM degrees with tech blend? What is your say on STEM management programs? Also working towards improving my GMAT score. I don't think there's an MIM degree with a tech blend. In the US, there are certain programs called MEM, Masters in Engineering Management, right? So there's one at Dartmouth, there's one at Duke. These are very popular. So you may consider that. Stanford has the Management Science and Engineering. MIT has something very similar. So these are some programs you can consider. Himanshu has a question. Based in Germany, 9 years of experience in a management role, planning to do EMBA either from M7 or top EU universities. Would you recommend to get more experience for EMBA? If 9 years is your entire experience, I think you definitely need more experience for an EMBA. Maybe about 15 or 16 would be on par. 9 years, you're just about on the outside of what a regular MBA requires. If you want, you can still apply for a regular MBA, assuming you're, less than, let's say, 31, 32, somewhere in the neighborhood. Okay, I'm going to take maybe one or two more questions. How can a tech grad student apply as a BA to one of the MBB firms? We are also seeking for MBA program in the future. See, MBB is very selective about who it recruits, right? So typically they recruit from certain college campuses, and it is very difficult to make it to MBB outside of those college campuses. So in India, I think they recruit from the IITs and IIMs, and maybe some of the top tier colleges in each region for these research roles, right? So if you're not in one of those standard feeder colleges, then it may be difficult to make it. But definitely post MBA, I think it should be fine. 9 years of entrepreneur experience. What about the career opportunities for entrepreneurs? If anyone wants to switch the career right now, 760 schools prefer. UC Berkeley likes entrepreneurs. Stanford likes entrepreneurs. I think almost every college likes entrepreneurs, right? So it really depends on what area of work you've done, right? I mean, which industry, which sector, what kind of company have you started, in what manner have you scaled it up? I think these are some of the ways in which you would be adding value to the class. So we'll need to examine that to figure out what a suitable post-MBA career opportunities would be. But almost every school likes entrepreneurs, right? Last question, Shri Kumar, I think we've interacted with each other before. A marine engineer sailing with Maersk in the rank of second engineer. If I pursue a supply chain management upon graduation, will my previous experience count, or would I be starting afresh? Assuming you've done some supply chain work in your capacity as marine engineer, which is very likely, I think your previous experience would count. Yeah. All right, Abhijit, I think that's all the questions we had today. So hopefully, guys, I was able to answer your questions and clear your doubts. If you have anything like Abhijit's mentioned, feel free to reach out to us for a profile evaluation. We have a little bit of queue going there, but we'll definitely be happy to help out as much as we can. We do a few other webinars as well, so definitely we'll have multiple forums with which you can interact. Yeah, I mean that's everything. Thanks for making it a great session. I'm a little out of breath right now, so I'm going to get some water. Have a very good night, or have a very nice morning wherever and whichever part of the world you're from, and I'll see you soon.